Aye, kuwe kuwa maduwe.
Aye, kuwe maduwe.
Aye, kuwe kuwa maduwe.
Aye, kuwe maduwe.
And just having that kind of strong background of having this Black pride and having a very tight-knit community, I guess were there other things that influenced you? Like, was sports a big part of your life when you were younger?
Oh man, I'm from Indiana, brother, so that's basketball and that's Hoosier hysteria. People really do go crazy. But yeah, man, I was very fortunate, man, that my neighborhood produced some of the best high school basketball players over a span of about 20 years before I got there, man.
Wow.
So all these dudes were my idols. As I got older, I got a chance to play against them and with them. And you know, football is king in Texas, but in Indiana, man, it's basketball. You know, as soon as you start walking, we start hooping. No matter what the season is, if it was wintertime, shovel the snow and get out there. But yeah, man, basketball was my serious passion, man, really from the time I got to elementary school. Because I had a bunch of brothers literally that lived within a 3-block radius that were some of the biggest high school names in the city, man, some in the state.
Wow.
So I got a chance to interact with these dudes when I was little, man, and it's like, nah, man, I want to play ball, man. You know, so yeah, basketball was very, and still is very big in my life, man.
I hear that. Yeah. And just having that experience of it's being from a community where you've had so much talent come out and had that experience and being around them, getting to play with them. Did that translate over as you got older too, in terms of whether it's you maybe playing out of state or, you know, maybe going someplace to play like that? How did that impact you?
Well, being able to play ball in Gary, Indiana will allow you to play any place in the world, man.
Wow, okay.
Them brothers prepared me for so much stuff, man, and as I did my travels and stuff, I ended up playing for the University of Rochester.
Okay.
And so playing ball up there was like, it was easy, man, because it was so hard at home. The competition was so stiff and the expectations were really high, and I had a lot of self-expectations too. But the training that I got as far as basketball in Indiana had a big part on me, and then subsequently becoming a coach. All the things that I learned from my coaches and the brothers that I played against and the dudes that were my mentors, I was able to share that with a younger generation, you know. So, yeah, man, I still love playing ball, man. You know, can't jump as high and not as fast, but still got a good half hour in me, and then I go home, man.
I hear that. No, I hear that. That's excellent. Were there any coaches in particular or players that just really had an impact on you or stood out to you?
Yeah, I have, to this day, man, I have 2 coaches that just shaped the way I am. The first coach I had, in Indiana, they have this thing called biddy basketball, which is subsequent to Little League baseball.
Okay.
So you play biddy from 8 years old all the way up to 12. My first biddy coach was named Mr. Marion Smalls. And we practiced every day, but the first 45 minutes of practicing was conditioning. We didn't pick up a basketball. We had to run or do drills for 45 minutes, okay? And then we started playing ball. So that got my endurance together, you know, and that skill level of doing different drills. And then the next major coach that had a big influence was my 7th grade coach, rest in peace, Ulysses Henderson. He was one of the first black football players in the Big Ten in the 40s.
Wow.
And I share this story because the impact that he had on me was a direct result of the impact of him playing football at Indiana University, as I said. He played during the 40s, and he was one of the greatest punters in the United States, man, as a black dude. But he told me the story, man, that when he was time to come in and punt, the other team, as they was rush him, they would say, get that nigga's knees to mess him up.
Yeah.
But Coach Henderson got hip to it, and he had one of the quickest releases in terms of getting that ball off the punt. And in his 50s, man, he was still booming stuff. You know, he'd show us. But anyway, it was mandatory to play for Coach Henderson that you had to use both hands. I wasn't good with my left hand at first, okay? So we're going through the drills. I'm having a hard time going through the drills. So finally he said, well, Shaw, which they called me, he said, Shaw, come over here. So he gave me a basketball and he stood me up against the wall. And he said, I want you to just work on this until I come back and get you. Well, homeboy came back 15 minutes later to come get me. So I'm using my left hand, using my left hand, using my left hand. And I built it up enough that when it was time to do the left hand drill, you know, I was ready. And subsequently, if I'm in different situations, I can use both hands.
Nice.
And I never forgot that, because instead of him talking crazy and putting me out the line, he pulled me to the side and said, Shaw, just work on this. I know your left hand's kind of weak right now, but keep working on it. It's going to get better and better and better. And from that point on, man, the next day, I do my left hand, right hand drills. And if a situation comes up that I use my left hand, it's second nature, man.
That's good.
But the time that he took with me, man, really, it impacted me the rest of my life, man. I went to visit Coach Henderson, again, rest in peace, another brother, 10 years ago when I went back home. And he had lost both of his legs due to diabetes. But he was the national over 60 wheelchair ping pong player in the country, man.
Wow.
Homeboy had all his medals on the wall and stuff, man. And when I went to go visit him, I was coaching at the time. So Coach Henderson would always call me Ronald Shaw instead of Shaw. You know, that's your school name. Ronald Shaw, how you doing in California? I said, Coach, I'm coaching now. He goes, are you stressing discipline? I said, yes, Coach, I'm stretching discipline. I said, also, I got something else for you, Coach. He said, what's that, Shaw? He said, if you are fundamentally sound, you will be able to participate in any endeavor. That was the mantra that he gave us when we were in the 7th grade. And that's the mantra that I gave the kids that I coached. And I ran it back to him, man. He just started beaming, man. I said, Coach, you know, if you're fundamentally sound, and he finished the rest of the sentence. But those two coaches had a big influence on me, man, in terms of conditioning and also patience and teaching. You know, so I'm indebted to both of those dudes, man. And that set the tone for me the rest of my basketball career. You know, being in shape and being attentive and being fundamentally sound.
That's good. So would you say those people influenced you just becoming a coach in general? Is that something you wanted to do, or you just kind of got into it?
I just liked the game, man. And then an opportunity came up with another gentleman from Indiana. He was from Muncie, Indiana, and was coaching one of the local teams. And he asked me that if he wanted me to be his assistant. I said, well, you know, man, I got to wait because my number 2 son was playing locally. And I said, I got to wait till he graduates before I start coaching, because they were rival schools. So I said, no, I can't coach against my son, you know, so when he graduates, come back and get me. And he came back and got me, and I coached for Kennedy High School in Richmond. Okay. Assistant varsity coach and JV coach.
Got it. Okay.
So I had those brothers for a while, and that was a good experience for me in order to share some of the stuff, as I said, that Coach Smalls and Coach Henderson shared with me. The discipline aspect was the biggest thing for me, though, because a lot of those brothers that I had at that particular time, they thought they were going straight to the pros. And I had to share with them. I say, man, I'm 40 years old, man. You can't get past me. How you going to the pros, bruh? So let's work on this. Let's work on that. And I had a mandatory study hall before practice. Mandatory 2.5 GPA, and we check grades every week, man. So again, taking stuff from coaches that made sure I was cool, and I just imparted that with the brothers that I came in contact to. You know.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So did basketball bring you to the Bay Area, or was it something else?
No, I went from University of Rochester back home to Gary for a minute, and then to Los Angeles. Okay. My first child was born, and my wife didn't like Gary. We were in Gary for a minute, but she had people in Los Angeles, and I had people in Compton and in Long Beach. So I'd been down there before and knew the area. I said, yeah, I could stay in Los Angeles for a year. And that was 1975, man. So I spent 8 years in Los Angeles and then moved to the Bay Area. And I've been in the Bay Area since 1983.
Okay.
Yeah.
What part of the Bay did you move to?
Started off in Berkeley
Okay.
and ended up in Richmond. Yeah. So I've been in Richmond 27, 28 years now in Richmond. Yeah.
And how would you say that influenced your career path, seeing your parents not only own businesses, but really influence in terms of working hard and having education as a big part of that?
That's interesting. I translated that hard work first into playing basketball. And so I got to be pretty good at it and got a scholarship to play a ball at Wagner College in Staten Island, where I went to school. And then, in fact, I made Little Old America and got inducted into my College Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So that was part of the ethic of working hard, you know. And then I spent, after college, I went into the Army for 2 years. I was drafted, and that was like a moratorium on life. It gave me a time to think about things and what I wanted to do, and think about what opportunities I had. And so I found that I was interested in medicine. I'd always been sort of programmed to do that. My father used to call me Dr. Butch all the time. My nickname was Butch. And so then when I came out of the Army and went into medical school, I worked extremely hard. In fact, I would work during the holidays when other people would go home. I'd be in the laboratory. And I'm not sure why I'm getting emotional about this, but that hard work led me to graduate first in my class.
Wow.
Boy, this is really difficult. I'm not sure
It's okay.
why.
It's all right. Take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time.
And after medical school, I did internship in New York, thinking I'd want to go back to New York because that's where I grew up. But I couldn't handle New York anymore after that. After seeing so many of my buddies not make it, so then, once I got out of medical school, I went to, after the internship, rather, I went to USC for orthopedic surgery. And
So you mentioned after you began doing medical school, and you had like a short stint in the Army for a little bit. It got you a chance to think about what it is that you wanted to do with your life, and that led you to go into medicine. And you were just talking about that process, and you had just left Harlem or just left New York after, what did you say, 22 years?
after 22 years, right.
That's right, yeah. And where'd you go after that?
Well, after that, I wound up going into the Army, and from the Army into medical school, and from medical school into internship at Brooklyn Jewish Hospital, and then USC for orthopedics.
Orthopedics, interesting. And after you went to USC for orthopedics, did you just kind of decide to stay on the West Coast, or what brought you to the Bay?
After orthopedics, I went to Tanzania, East Africa, and practiced in Dar es Salaam
Wow.
for a year. And that was a very interesting experience. I, in fact, wanted to, I thought I might want to live in Africa permanently. But the circumstance of Tanzania was a Muslim country, and the opportunities for women were not that great. I was married at the time to Angela Blackwell, Angela Glover, and it was clear that she was a very bright woman, and her opportunities there were not sufficient, I felt, for us. But I was the only orthopedist in Dar es Salaam. I went there after Julius Nyerere, the first president in Tanzania, came to the UN and spoke there and appealed to African Americans to come and help build a thing he called Ujamaa, African socialism.
Interesting.
And that's what took me there.
Interesting. So,
And then from there, I went to the Bay Area. Having trained in LA, I knew I didn't want to go back to LA. That was too much Hollywood for me. And the Panthers were hot at the time. Politically, Oakland was the place to be. And so I chose Oakland.
excellent. Wow. So, what was that transition like going from Tanzania to Oakland, essentially? Just it's a big jump.
The transition from Tanzania to Oakland wasn't very big, so much as going from LA to Tanzania.
Okay.
You're right. But Dar es Salaam was a very exciting place. It was full of intrigue. We had about 450 African Americans in that country at the time, and doing various things and involved politically. Tanzania was supportive to the Free Lima movement, which was in Mozambique, and the freedom movement in Angola. So it was a hot place to be.
That sounds like it. Did you get a chance to visit other countries?
Yes, I went to Kenya, spent time in Ghana, and where else did we go? Spent some time in Egypt. Nigeria.
Wow. Okay. So you got to go from a few different parts of the continent. So it's good. Yeah, just kind of east and west. So that's excellent. And what was that experience? Right? Did you notice any similarities or differences working in these different areas, working in Watts, working in Berkeley? What was that like?
No, man, it's no difference. It wasn't any difference. Because I had the same attitude that I was going to do the best I can to educate and uplift the youngsters and the families that I work with, man. Because there's a lot of situations, they didn't get the same, I'm going to say, not the same experience that I did, man. I cannot be thankful enough for that Gary experience, man. So I just tried to take that wherever I went, man. You know, we expect the best of you. Do the best you can, and make sure your community is better, man. So no, I've carried that philosophy wherever I've worked in the neighborhood, man. So the only differences would be the gang activities, of course, down in South Central. But I was very fortunate, man, that I always came in contact with the shot callers. So they knew that when I was in the area, man, I was about business. You know, I wasn't about you live here, I live there.
Right.
And I was able to translate that up into Richmond and Berkeley as well, man. You know, because brothers be claiming stuff, and I would come back out and Brother Spence, I said, yeah, you claiming this area, man, but are you renting or owning? Which one you doing, bro? Yeah. I'm in Shaw. I said, nah, man, I just asked you, are you renting or owning?
Yeah.
You know, and what impact does that have in terms of not only your community, but how you look at another brother because he lived 5 blocks away from you?
Wow.
Come on, man.
What were those conversations like? Yeah, those.
You know what? when I present it to the brothers at first, Brother Spencer, they'll pause for a minute. And I said, well, check this out, man. You funking with this dude that lives 5 blocks away from you because of what? Oh, man, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, what is the real reason that you got to go off on this brother over here? What is happening? But I found out in Richmond, unfortunately, and across the country too, man, it's generational. This grandfather's funking, man. Come on, man. This 4 and 5 generations, man, of brothers going off on each other, not knowing why.
Wow.
You know. So when I was in Richmond, man, Richmond is very territorial, man.
Yeah.
And I had a central location where I would meet these brothers from all over the areas and stuff. So I said, man, this the Ron Shaw zone right here, bruh. So, and I knew most of them had some pistols too. So I said, man, then the pistols outside. This is Ron Shaw area right here. Only thing you claiming in here is Ron Shaw. You ain't claiming you from here or here from here. This is my area. This is what we claiming. And so subsequently, I used to have the brothers staggered leave, okay? So I said, well, brothers from here, y'all leave. Get totally out the area. Okay, 15 minutes later, you brothers go. 15 minutes later, you brothers go. And I don't want to hear nothing that jumped off within a 10-block radius of where we are right now. Now, when you get to that 11th or 12th block, that's a different story, and I still don't want that to happen.
Right.
But within this Ron Shaw zone, bruh, we brothers, man. You know, we ain't funking because you live here and you live there and stuff. So subsequently, I got the brothers thinking about that, Brother Spencer. I said, man, why you on this dude, man? What happened? Well, this boy, blah, blah, blah. I say, man, come on, man. You just playing into what some other people want you to keep doing, and you doing their work, bruh. You doing their work, man. So let's just think about trying to at least respect each other. You know, we ain't got to love each other right now, but let's respect each other as black people, you know, and then hopefully it'll advance from there and stuff. But I always try to break it down like that, man. You know, why are you doing this madness, man? Why are you trying to hurt this other brother and vice versa? It makes no sense, man. Playing right into it, you know. So I've been successful using that philosophy in a couple of areas. And in a couple of areas, unfortunately, brothers not here with us now. You know, a few of them that I've lost over the years, man, because they just couldn't capture that all the way. That at least respect each other, man. But you ain't got to be funking because somebody live in a different neighborhood than you know. So
Yeah.
that's an ongoing thing, no man. And it goes back to the self-hatred too.
Right.
You know, we got to get that knocked out, man.
Yeah.